So thank you for tuning in to the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank the Lord that my microphone has decided to work for this segment. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and go into our NBA recap. We always do this for the third segment, as you guys know, and if you guys have been paying attention and been tuning into the stream. So I was talking about Dallas losing to the Pacers, so I might as well go ahead and start with that and go ahead and build off of that with the rest of the games that went down. Because Dallas losing to the Pacers, I'm not even going to lie, in my eyes, I see it as an upset. And I personally think this Dallas Mavericks team should be better than this Pacers team. But they did not play better. Despite Luka Doncic getting a 39-point triple-double, he ended the game with 39, 11, and 10. They still couldn't pull out a win against this team, and they still ended up losing by 17 points. That is not ideal if you're the Dallas Mavericks. The fact that Luka Doncic playing 43 minutes, getting almost 40 points and a triple-double, and they still lose, that is very bad. And it's totally understandable why Luka was frustrated while sitting on the bench for this game, because it's like it didn't matter what he did. The Pacers constantly had an answer for it because of the lack of defense from Dallas. And not to mention, Kyrie Irving, he did not play particularly well in this game. He shot 8 for 19 from the field and 3 of 9 from 3, ended the game with 23 points. If you're Kyrie Irving, you're expected to score a lot more, especially being the second option for the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, he was one of the players that averaged almost 30 points in the NBA Finals with LeBron James. And with that in mind, the fact that he's not being able to do that in the regular season is a bit concerning. And this shooting, he wasn't the only player that showed up for this team. PJ Washington ended the game with 20 points, as well as 7 rebounds and 3 assists, 7 of 12 from the field. Daniel Gafford also played well, 7 of 7 from the field, but the rest of the team wasn't really that good. Josh Green ended the game 3 of 7 from the field. Tim Hardaway Jr. ended the game 2 of 8 from the field. Jaden Hardy ended the game 0 for 2. And let's go ahead and keep looking at this stack. Maxi Kleber ended the game 0 for 3. Derek Lively II ended the game 0 for 2. Compared to the rest of the Pacers team, there was only one player on the Pacers that did not get double-digit points. One player on the Pacers that did not get double-digit points. Everybody else did. Pascal Siakam ended the game 13 and 13. Tyrese Halliburton ended the game 19 and 11. Miles Turner ended the game with 20 points. Andrew Nembhard, forgive me if I messed up that last name, ended the game with 10 points. And going on to the bench, Benedict Mathurin ended the game with 19 points. Ben Shepherd ended the game with 12. Jalen Smith ended the game with 11, and so on and so forth. Everybody was in double digits except for Aaron Nesmith. Again, forgive me if I botched that last name. And he only played 22 minutes, but he ended with 6 points. So the fact that everybody on this roster was able to get double-digit points is not ideal, and it really shows how bad the defense is for the Dallas Mavericks. And it really also shows how good the offense is for the Indiana Pacers and how they take advantage of lazy defenses. Because with the speed and how they play, a lot of teams are very lazy to rotate to go guard that corner, because it's like they inbound the ball extremely quickly. They don't wait to get in a half-court set. They move. And, it's like the second they inbound the ball, they get it to Tyrese, he throws it down the court, and it's like there's only... The team is forced to play, the team on the defense is forced to play like a 3-on-4, and because there'd be people still trying to get back on defense, and the second they drive the ball to the paint, it leaves someone wide open for a corner 3. And they take advantage of that, and they do this every single time. And I'm very surprised that teams haven't really like tried to sort of defend that in a sense, and they sort of like just hope to God that the Pacers start missing. It's not a good look, and it's not something that I think is going to work long term, and it's definitely something that a lot of teams are going to change when guarding the Pacers in the playoffs, if they even make the playoffs. Because right now the Pacers, they stand 8th in the Eastern Conference. I actually think that they'll probably make it out of the play-in, but depending on who they play in the play-in, we'll see like just the results of that game. But let's move on with some of the other games that went down. Before I go into the important games, we're going to talk about my Brooklyn Nets. They finally win a game. After so long, they finally win a game. They beat the Sixers with them being shorthanded without Joel Embiid. A win is a win is a win. And like I'm going to take what I can get as a Nets fan with these wins. The scoring for the Nets was a lot more spread than it usually was. Dorian Finney-Smith ended the game with 20 points. Dennis Schroeder also ended the game with 20 points. Lonnie Walker ended the game with 19. Mikal Bridges, he plays every single game. You know he was going to be on this box score. He ended the game with 15 points. And he really hasn't been like that player that the Brooklyn Nets expected. He has not made that leap to being the man of the team. And it looked like he was going to be the man of the team, but so far it's not the case. Nicholas Claxton ended the game with 17 points, 6 of 8 from the field. And everyone played relatively well in this game, shooting the ball. And it was enough to win the game in the end. Thankfully, they did not have Joel Embiid. If they had Joel Embiid, I would be there's no surprise that the Sixers would beat us. But so far, there was also no Tyrese Maxey in this game. And now I'm sort of like, thank the Lord that we were able to win this game. But the fact that this game was close is very, very concerning. Buddy Hield, he only ended the game with 13 points and 3 of 9 from the field. I thought this would be a good pickup for the Sixers, but so far it's not. It hasn't really looked like he's been doing enough for this team. Kelly Oubre ended the game with 30 points. I don't know why the Nets led Kelly Oubre in the game with 30 points. Tobias Harris ended the game with 18 points. Cameron Payne ended with 15 points. Kyle Lowry ended the game with 14 points. Now, this Sixers team, they might drop all the way down to they already dropped down to the play-in. Right now they're 7th in the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't be surprised if they go all the way down to like 10th in the Eastern Conference, or even out of the playoffs entirely if Joel Embiid doesn't return very, very soon. So that's something that the Sixers have to worry about going into the future. Let's see what else. Now let's go on to like the big games and the important games. There were 2 major upsets that happened last night. One of them being the Boston Celtics. They ended up losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the box scores real quick. Just give me 1 second. In the fourth quarter, with 9 minutes left to go, the Boston Celtics were up 93-71. Then the final score was 105-104 in favor of the Cavs. That is a huge upset if you're the Boston Celtics. Giving up a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter is unacceptable for the number 1 team in the NBA. And it is the largest fourth quarter comeback of the season to end the Celtics win streak. Now, as the Celtics, you might look at this game and be like, okay, I mean, like it was just one loss. It's not really going to affect us going into the playoffs, but that is concerning. The fact that they blew that game. It is very, very concerning because again, they were up by 20 points. Normally, in the fourth quarter, when they are up by 20 points, they close that game out instantly. They always close that game out with their offense, and the game ends up being an even bigger blowout than what it usually is. That's sort of what's been expected with the Boston Celtics this season. And the fact that they sort of allowed them to come back is a little bit concerning, especially when they're sort of short-handed coming off of the bench. They only had 4 people coming off of the bench outside of the rotation. And the scoring for the Cavs wasn't really there. Like, I mean, the final score was 105 to 104. It wasn't a high-scoring game. It was really down to defense. And the fact that they also didn't have Donovan Mitchell in this game, which is even more concerning for the Boston Celtics. Because the Boston Celtics, they weren't shorthanded whatsoever. They played absolutely everybody. And the fact that they lost without the Cavs' best player is very, very concerning. And it honestly shows just how good the Cavs are as a team. And Jarrett Allen, he ended the game with 21 and 12. Darius Garland ended the game with 16 and 11. Isaac Okoro ended the game with 16 points. And Dean Wade, coming off of the bench, ended the game with 23 and 8. Now, the shooting for the Cavs, it was really good. They ended up hitting 23 pointers, shooting 47% from three as a team, and that's sort of what separated them with between the Boston Celtics, because the Celtics only shot 39% from three. So that is a 12% difference in 3-point shooting on a few more shots, but like still that 12% difference makes a lot in this league. And with that in mind, like, I mean, the Celtics, they did not really play that well. Jaylen Brown didn't play that well, 8 for 20 from the field with 21 points. Jason Tatum, 8 for 21 from the field with 26 points. Kristaps was 9 of 18 from the field with 24 points. And Drew Holiday only ended the game with 12 points, 5 of 9 from the field. Derek White, who I said in previous podcasts was developing into a star, ended the game 1 of 5 from the field with 3 points. So it wasn't his night on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe if he actually produced on the offense, we would be looking at this game completely different. Another upset that happened was the Suns beating the Denver Nuggets by 10 points without Devin Booker. Now, obviously, the Nuggets, they weren't shorthanded in this game whatsoever. And they ended up losing, and it's very surprising that they ended up losing to the Suns. I mean, Kevin Durant, he has a very good track record when going up against Nikola Jokic. So he ended the game with 35 points, played 44 minutes. Grayson Allen ended the game with 28 points, and Bradley Beal ended the game with 16 points. So it was really all Kevin Durant, even though he actually shot very poorly from the field. 14 of 34 from the field and getting 35 points. He only ended the game with 1 more point than shot attempts. Not ideal for Kevin Durant, but obviously, and not very efficient. Something that's a little bit surprising for Kevin Durant to really shoot inefficiently. But he ended up getting the win in the end. And on the Denver Nuggets side, Jokic ended the game with 25 and 16, which is honestly probably the biggest reason why they lost, because Jokic didn't end the game with a triple-double. He has a very good track record when he ends the game with a triple-double, and it really shows the value behind his triple-doubles. His triple-doubles actively lead to wins, unlike some people. And Jamal Murray ended the game with 28 points and 9 assists. Michael Porter Jr. ended the game with 20 points, and while the Nuggets, they were a little bit shorthanded, they had to make Jokic and Murray play 40-plus minutes, along with Michael Porter Jr. So with that in mind, it makes sense how they sort of shot inefficiently. Jokic went 8 for 18 from the field. We rarely see him shoot that inefficiently. Jamal Murray, 12 for 25. Michael Porter Jr., also 8 for 18 from the field. So, and Aaron Gordon ended the game with 7 points and was 3 of 10 from the field. So that obviously did not help anything whatsoever, the fact that they weren't shooting as efficiently as they normally do. I think this is just a bump in the road for the Denver Nuggets. I really think they are the favorites to make the Western Conference Finals again, despite this loss. And one more game I'd like to talk about before we do run out of time is the Spurs going up against the Rockets. The Rockets ended up winning 114 to 101. And the reason why I bring this game up is because Alperen Sengun completely outplayed Victor Wembanyama in this game. He ended the game with 45 points and 16 rebounds and 5 steals. That is insane. And a lot of people dubbed this guy as the next Jokic. And a little bit funny for like the Dillon Brooks haters. Dillon Brooks ended the game with 0 points and was 0 for 3 from the field. But really, could you blame him? Because Sengun was going off on Victor Wembanyama this game. And his play style, like, yes, it reminds me of Jokic. Like, obviously, he's not as good of a passer as Jokic, even though he can be as good of a passer as Jokic. But his defense this game on Victor Wembanyama was phenomenal. Victor Wembanyama only had 10 points and 11 rebounds. Very uncharacteristic from him, even though he only took 10 shots as a player. And he sort of allowed like his team to sort of do what his team needed to do. It didn't work in the end of the day. But I just wanted to bring this game up just to talk about Sengun and how good of a player he was. And how, like, this Rockets team, while it's not where it, like, it's not a, while they're not like the best team, they're a mediocre team. They could be very special if they build around Sengun and his style of play. If they build around this guy and not Jalen Green, they will go far in the future. Like, this guy is the next face. And Jabari Smith. Like, don't build around those players. Build around Sengun. If you build around Sengun, you're going to find success in your future. And that's sort of, like, all I wanted to touch on because, like, again, Jabari Smith and Jalen Green, I'm not a really big fan of either of those players because Jalen Green, in my eyes, is just a shot chucker. I mean, he ended the game 11 of 23 from the field and 23 points overall, 1 for 10 from 3. He just chucks up the ball. And I really do not like his play style. It's all about him, and highlights. It's similar to like how I feel about Jordan Poole. I am not a big fan of Jalen Green. You do not build around him. Build around Sengun. And we're out of time for this third segment, so I'm going to go ahead and speed rally some of these games. The Knicks, they recently lost to the Hawks 116 to 100. Makes sense. The Knicks, they don't really have all of their players in the starting lineup, all the players that they need. Brunson, he was out this game, so it definitely makes sense that this team was missing something on the offensive side of the ball. They really need Brunson. Not going to talk much about that game because we're running out of time. The Magic ended the game 101 to 89 against Charlotte, and obviously, like the Magic, they've been going off. They've been on a roll so far. This like after this All-Star break. Right now, they are 4th in the Eastern Conference, and they really look to be like a really good team. And another team that is looking really good right now is the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, they've hold on just 1 second while the box scores load up. They won the game 118 to 110 against the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, like this is the Pistons. Like we expected the Miami Heat to beat the Pistons because the Pistons are that bad. So not really much to really talk about this game other than like a lot of people are saying that Jimmy Butler is playoff Jimmy is back and he's going to return for the playoffs. I think playoff Jimmy is a myth. Personally, I think he's a myth. He only plays well in the first round, at least given last year. He only played well in the first round, and he kept regressing every single time in the postseason. So, but I digress about that. And the Pelicans, they also played last night. They beat the Toronto Raptors, who are also shorthanded without having Scotty Barnes, if this box score could actually load. 139 to 98. They scored 42 points in the first quarter. So it was really just Raps right after that. But that's all for this third segment. That was all of the games that ended up going down. So now I'm going to go into the fourth segment, which is going to talk about Victor Wembanyama. And if, like, we already talked about him being clear-cut Rookie of the Year, now we're going to talk about if he deserves to be the Defensive Player of the Year, because Draymond Green had something to say about that on his podcast. So I will be right back after this short break to talk about that as well.